And one of the very liberating positions I think we all find ourselves in now is that if there was ever a time in our career where we could do really whatever we wanted to do, this is the time.
Hey guys, James Wilson-Taylor here for Rock Sound. Now, Cab For Cutie are back with a brand new album. You've heard a couple of singles already. I'm delighted to say that on the line right now we have Ben to tell us all about it. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Where do I find you today? It sounds like you were somewhere very glamorous. You were just saying off a mic there.
I don't know if glamorous is the right word, but I'm in Chamonix, France. My wife and I are here for a vacation, and I'm sticking around for a week, hanging out with some friends and running up in these insane mountains. Just absolutely gorgeous here.
Yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous way to end your summer right there. Absolutely. And, you know, what an exciting time to talk to you, man. Appreciate you taking the time on this because obviously new music's kind of imminent. Like I say, we've already heard some of it. I guess a good place to start with this is really when did these ideas start coming together for you? You know, I know when the couple of years stopped and touring stopped and everything, a lot of artists kind of decided, I don't want to write anything right now. I just want to clear my head. What was that process like for you? When did these ideas kind of start to formulate?
I usually start writing for a new record in the months after the previous one comes out. I kind of feel like I have this, after we finish a record, I have kind of like a creative empty nest syndrome, and then I need to kind of clear the decks of whatever music is kind of waiting to come out before I can start working. So I started working on music before the pandemic, but it was really when things kind of hit and we were all kind of resigned to our homes that I feel like I really started getting down to work. I think for the first month or so, when we thought we would be in our homes for like 2 weeks or something, I was nervous and really what's going on. But then once we realized we're going to be here for a while, I kind of started really getting to work.
Yeah, no, smart move. And, what great results, I got to say. Really been enjoying the singles so far. I want to touch on a few of them, mainly with the Roman Candles, which, of course, was kind of the kick-off launch kind of moment for it. Great music video for that as well. Really, really cool idea there. But just tell me a little bit about where that one kind of came to be. It feels like a real kind of, that sort of quintessential sound you guys are known for. It seems like a real signature track, that one.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of got in its bones, it's a very kind of traditional Death Cab song, but when I was writing it, it was one of the last songs I wrote for the record, and I realized that we didn't really have. I wanted something on the record that was very like short and to the point, and kind of just punch you in the face. And a lot of the other songs on the record, at least at that point, that we were considering, were kind of meandering, and they were kind of in a very traditional, take your time to get there kind of way that we tend to write music. But I felt I just wanted something on the record that really felt like you were being assaulted for a couple of minutes. So I kind of brought in a demo that was kind of a light version of what ended up on the record, and then John Congleton, who produced the record, just absolutely took it into outer space, as he tends to do with most of the stuff he works on.
Yeah, no, it worked really, really nicely. Like I say, what a kind of great video to go with it. And like powerful, I think is the phrase. I think that one particularly is going to sound very, very good during the live set. It makes a lot of sense. And then kind of jumping forward, the most recent cut we've heard is obviously Foxglove Through the Kid Cut. And I've heard you say kind of elsewhere that actually felt like maybe one of the more personal moments on the record for you. Just wanted to expand on that a little bit. What was it about that idea, that lyric that kind of made you want to open up the most, I guess, in terms of the wider record?
I guess usually when I'm writing songs, I've got a very clear picture of who the subject of the song is, whether it's somebody that I know or it's an amalgamation of people that I'm kind of writing about or to. And with Foxglove, I just had this kind of series of images of somebody. It was like I could see the frame of a person, but I couldn't really see the face. It was kind of a faceless person I was writing about. And I just kind of followed that path throughout the song. And it was only really after the song was finished that I realized that I was kind of both the narrator and the protagonist of the song. I think it would take probably the whole time we have to kind of talk about what the song means to me. But I think at the end of the day, it was a very unusual experience for me creatively to find myself realizing that a song was about me after it was already done. Usually if I'm writing about myself or my own experiences, those things are fairly obvious while I'm writing about them. But in this particular case, it was only after the fact that when the song was done, and that was kind of, it took me aback a bit that I could be so ignorant of my own participation in a song, if that makes any sense.
No, 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 that definitely makes sense. It's interesting. It feels like you're always been in kind of a reflective mood in a way, and I guess that's going to come when it's, I mean, we're I think at the point or past the point now of like 25 years as a band, effectively. A quarter of a century doing something. It's natural you're going
Sure.
to look back and kind of see what's worked in that time. Did you find that process in the album at all? Did you feel like you were kind of looking back and seeing how far you've come? I suppose when thinking about newer music and where to go next.
I think with every record, there's certainly a couple songs where I feel like I'm looking overtly looking backwards. I think Rand McNally is a song that I kind of wrote kind of about the early days of the band and kind of to and about people who had been in the band or friends of ours that we had toured with or whatever it might be, and kind of making kind of the statement to them that I wouldn't let the light fade. Like I would kind of take this responsibility and this honor that I have, and still being able to do this, still being able to do music for a living 25 years later. I take that very seriously, and I think even more so than probably when I was younger and the band was relatively new. I very much recognize at this point in my career in my life how fortunate I am to do this at all, but certainly to do it for a living and to do it at the level that we've been able to do it. So it's not that there's ever been a record that I've written or that we've been working on that I've been like, oh, that's fine, that's good enough. I'm always trying to do my best, but I think the longer this band exists, the more kind of focused I feel I am on making sure that we're trying to do the best work we possibly can, rather than something that might just be like, oh, that'll do. Because I don't want to waste anybody's time, certainly, and for a band that's been around as long as we have and has made some records that people have really connected with. I'm not particularly interested in just wanting to be a band that is just people are waiting for the hits. I want to be a band that has new music that is vital and important and has life in it. And when the record's out and people listen to it and they hear it, they can make those distinctions for themselves if that the music has that level of meaning for them. But it's important to I think it's an important distinction to say that we are trying to continue to make the best music we possibly can, that we're trying to do things that are new for the band and not just kind of settle into mid-tempo acoustic numbers or whatever.
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? You can't let anything go stale. You want to be trying new things and want to challenge yourself. Otherwise, what's the point? You've got to keep pushing yourself forward. You've got to keep yourself interested more than anything else, because then that always flows through the music for the audience too, right?
Well, yes, and one of the very liberating positions I think we all find ourselves in now is that if there was ever a time in our career where we could do really whatever we wanted to do, this is the time. Because at this point in our career, I don't think we're at like every record that we put out at 25 years in is going to be the make or break record for the rest of our career, right? So you can either throw your hands up and take it not so much personally, but you can kind of see it as like a detriment to where you are in your career, or you can take it as a very liberating position and say like, look, let's have a spoken word piece on this record. This is something we would never do before. Why the fuck can't we do it now? We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, no, very liberating. Great attitude to have. It makes a lot of sense. I want to mention on the album as well, it's a question I'm sure you've been asked a million times over the years, but I genuinely am fascinated by album titles. I always ask artists this because even though I know obviously there's a title track on this record, but I'm always really interested to hear why an artist chooses a phrase to sum up the whole collection. So, Asphalt Meadows, why did you decide, even though you got the title track on there and everything, why did you decide that was the phrase you wanted to actually sum up this record as a whole?
I think we really liked the imagery that those two words kind of brought up in our minds when we said them together. I think for me the title, while also is the name of a song on the record and kind of is a part of a lyric, for me, when one thinks of a meadow, I think of a very tranquil, beautiful place. And as human beings have kind of conquered nature, so to speak, over the course of our existence on this planet, we've come to also see cities as beautiful, right? We've come to see urban landscapes as beautiful, and certainly when you see New York City or London or whatever from an airplane, you look down on it and you go, oh, that's so beautiful, look at that city, it's so amazing. The same way that you would look at a meadow and be like, what a beautiful kind of setting. But but as you peel back the grass and you see all the bugs and things and the detritus and everything underneath it, the further you look into it, the less majestic it ends up seeming, and the more conflicted landscape is. And I feel that way for cities. You know, they look beautiful from a distance, but the further you kind of get into them, they become conflicted and a little bit more dark and real. And so I really like those two words together. You know, it was kind of those two words that I kind of just sang while I was writing that song, and they just kind of felt really good to me. I felt they kind of worked very nice metaphorically as a title for the album.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely fits well. Like you say, it's a very evocative image, isn't it? The beauty of a city, and especially when, you know, the last couple of years, not that I want to dwell on it so much, but when you see those images of them completely empty, it sort of takes on this whole
Yeah.
new meaning in a really kind of interesting way. I do want to kind of look back a little bit with you because you guys have been keeping busy over the last couple of years, yourself in particular. I want to mention the Covers EP, of course, first of all, that was a little bit of a way back now, the Georgia EP. But I would love to hear just why you chose that very different selection of songs. It was a really nice mix in there. What was it about those particular tracks that appealed to you and made you want to take on your own kind of version of it?
Well, we had done that EP as a fundraiser on Bandcamp for the runoff elections in the state of Georgia here in the States. And we have often kind of worked with certain organizations and tried to do fundraising and voter drives and things here in the States. And I think that our main our main kind of cause from the very beginning of this band has been voter registration and voter rights. We feel that in America, I might not like the results of an election, but if the overwhelming majority of people are able to vote, who are registered to vote, are able to cast their vote, and democracy is able to work, then I can come to peace with the results, whether or not they're for the candidate that I particularly supporting. And in this particular case, we wanted to kind of do something unique that would raise money for Fair Fight, which is an organization in Georgia that specifically was working with the campaigns in Georgia. So we figured, like, let's just kind of go through our Rolodex of some of our favorite songs that are artists from the state of Georgia, or who particularly came to prominence in the state of Georgia. There were some people who were online who were very upset that we had chosen a Neutral Milk Hotel song because he is actually from Louisiana, and people were like, he's actually from Ruston, Louisiana. He's not from Athens. Like, I mean, come on, dude. They were an Athens band. Like, they were Elephant Six. I mean, lighten up. So we kind of felt we kind of just powwowed. We did the whole EP in less than 2 weeks, and we did it all remotely from our home studio. So we just were like, let's pick some songs. Let's do this. This was an idea that I had. And like, let's just knock it out quick. And because we're all in our homes, of course, and we can't really leave, we're like, yes, let's do. I want something on a deadline. I want something that I have to do right now, versus waiting on going into a proper recording studio to make a record whenever we might get a chance to do that.
Here's something else I wanted to mention, from the last couple of years, actually. It's that connection that you guys have always had, a long kind of pop culture connection with, of course, the OC, which, you were obviously a big reference point in that show. I don't know if you've noticed this, but maybe it's just in the UK. That show became a bit of a streaming thing for a new generation. Like, my younger brother's generation discovered that for the first time during lockdown because it was more freely available. And then, of course, they were suddenly looking up all the soundtracks. You guys obviously a very, very prominent part of that. I don't know. I just found it really interesting to see that this particular younger generation that's maybe like early 20s, late teens, kind of younger generation suddenly discovering the band in this way again, like people my age did the first time in a lot of ways. I don't know. It just feels like that connection never really goes away. Is that something you kind of notice at all?
You were the first person to tell me that. That would make sense, right? I mean, there are, it's been pretty wild to see the power within pop culture that streaming has now, and kind of the most obvious example is that "Running Up That Hill" by Kate Bush is like a #1 song in America now, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. So I hadn't watched Stranger Things until that had happened, and I was like, why is everybody talking about this song? I was like, oh, I get it now. So you're the first person to tell me that. I guess that would make sense, right? I mean, I don't think the OC has been streaming. It's not on any of the major platforms I'm aware of, like Netflix or whatever, here yet. But yeah, that's been a phenomenon here with like the show Friends. A lot of Gen Z are into the show Friends now here. So yeah, I mean, at the time I've noticed as we've traveled around the world, we were fairly established in America when the OC came out. And it, of course, there were a lot of things happening in the culture at that time, and indie rock as like a genre kind of broke in 2003, 2004 in a way that it had never done before due to a number of factors. But as we traveled around the world, certainly in the wake of the OC, it was very interesting that we would get to a country and that's all they'd want to talk about. And we were like, well, what is going on here? It's like, oh, well, the show beat us there, right? The show was there before we were. Or, we maybe had some people knew our band in France, but the show was being syndicated there. So people were watching the show and finding out about the band that way. So it was really interesting to kind of see places around the world where this very odd confluence of pop culture things was the people's first introduction to our band. And I at the time I think I was a little bit skittish about it because we were concerned that all the momentum that we had kind of built and all the work we had done was being usurped by a network television show, and that we were losing kind of whatever modicum of cred we had at that time. But as the years went on, and the effect of the show kind of became just kind of one of many chapters in the band's history. It's something that I fully embrace now, and I'm glad that it happened. And I really believe that there's no wrong way to find out about music. If a 19-year-old kid is listening to Kate Bush now because of Stranger Things, man, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way those things can come back and songs can just kind of pop up again after so many years. It's just a really, really nice thing and a good way for new music discovery. And speaking to that as well, something else of yours that's very much enjoyed, I want to touch on briefly, Postal Service, because we're about, correct me if I'm wrong, are we coming up on like the 20th anniversary since like Such Great Heights? That must have been 2003, right?
Yeah, it was, I think, March or April 2003, yeah.
Wow, absolutely wild. Again, what another enduring success. The amount of bands in our world we've seen, covering songs from that project and everything, it's just been, just continuing phenomenon. I guess the questions there are what have you kind of taken away from that time that's kind of fed into anything you've done with Death Cab or anything since? And also, I suppose, now the 20th is coming up. Are there any plans to mark that in any sort of way? I'm not necessarily saying live shows or anything like that, but is there any plans to sort of think, let's try and mark it even a little bit?
I'm sure we'll come up with some way to kind of mark that anniversary. It seems like it's 20th, 10th, like kind of like multiples of 10 are good kind of multiples to kind of remind people of records or films or books or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I think that that record was the recipient of great timing. When we were making that record, I was kind of taking a lot of cues from a lot of the electro-pop stuff that I'd grown up with in the 80s. And, for the most part, a lot of computer-based electronic music in the late 90s, early aughts was very cold. It was very academic. It was very process-driven. And not a lot of people were using computers to make fun music or catchy music. So it wasn't as if, I certainly don't see it as that we were not pioneers, or we certainly weren't making anything new. I think we were just reintroducing people to a style of music that, a certain generation had not been necessarily exposed to. And we just benefited from really good timing. We have to be like one of the first people to do it, and now, I don't think in directly because of our influence, but just because of the many ways that people make that fact that more young people are making music on computers than with guitars, it seems these days. It feels that kind of template of using computers and synthesizers and drum machines to make electronic pop music is just that's just what indie rock is now for the most part.
Yeah, no, definitely seen that development over the last 20 years. It's so funny, like how those things again just come back around again, isn't it? All that instrumentation that worked so well that time, it's kind of coming back around again. It's really interesting. I do want to leave you with this, Ben. Obviously live shows. Congrats to you for keeping things going during the pandemic. I got to say, with those streams and everything, fair play to you for keeping that going, man. But it must be so nice now to know that dates are in the diary and being able to actually just get back up on those stages again. And also when you've got all these new songs to play, that's got to be so nice to finally be able to see some audience reactions to it as well.
It's been wonderful. We did some shows last September, and we've done some shows in the spring and here in the summer. And I think at some point in the depths of the pandemic, I remember having a conversation with Nick, our bass player, and saying something along the lines of, I'm never going to complain about a Sunday show in fill in the blank, weird market or town somewhere in the world ever again. I'm going to feel so fortunate that we're even able to do it, because having it taken away from us for almost 2 years was devastating. I don't think any of us realized how important it was in our lives. And I think for a lot of music fans, myself included, how much we all kind of leaned on live music as a place to kind of establish community, define community. So, I think I did a 1 year anniversary of the live from home shows, from the first anniversary of the first one. And I think I might have said something like, I really hope I don't have to do this again. I mean, I enjoyed doing them. They provided me a lot of solace, as it seems they did other people who were watching them, and a sense of normalcy and a routine. But we're social creatures. We're meant to be with each other and in each other's physical presence. We're meant to be, hugging people and talking too close and dancing and, fucking or whatever else we're doing. That's what we're meant to do, right? So I feel very, I'm overjoyed that we're getting back to a sense of normalcy. This virus will probably be around in some capacity for the rest of our lives, but we have vaccines, and we have a lot of ways to kind of mitigate symptoms. We have antivirals, and I think that especially young people just need to get out and enjoy their lives. They're young, man. Like, go out and have fun.
Yeah, man, it's so nice to see the audiences are appreciating it as much as the artists are. I think live music being back, it's really special feeling all these things, man.
I mean,
really
the shows have been crazy. It's really like, it really feels as if there's just this like unbelievable release, not only from the stage but from the audience. People are just feeling so relieved to be back in each other's presence.
Yeah, really, really nice to see it all back, man. It really is. Well, in the meantime, man, congrats on this record, and best of luck with all the touring and everything. We'll look forward to seeing you in the UK whenever that is, and enjoy your holiday and take care of yourself. I'm sure we'll catch up soon. All right.
All right, sounds good. I'll see you soon.